All right, welcome everyone to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at a pretty fascinating concept
Yeah.
called the intelligence economy.
Oh,
And
this is a good one.
it's a pretty radical idea,
Uh-huh.
right? Basically, it's saying like scrap bureaucracy. Let's create a system that actually rewards pure intelligence.
Exactly.
So think about it, like in a world where the best ideas automatically get funded and developed,
Right.
regardless of like where they came from or who thought of them.
Right. The source material that we're looking at today argues that the systems we have in place right now, they're fundamentally flawed, right? Favoring connections, credentials, all that,
Yeah,
over just the quality of the ideas themselves.
right.
And it uses this really interesting comparison. It says, it's like the smartest minds on the planet are just stuck
Oh, wow.
in this never-ending game of proving their worth instead of,
Actually doing something.
doing something. Exactly.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yep.
So many times where you hit a wall, you don't have the right degree or connections, even though you know you have a good idea.
For sure.
So what's the alternative?
Well, the source proposes a pretty bold solution,
Right.
An AI-powered idea checking machine.
Okay.
So imagine feeding an idea into a system,
Yeah.
and it analyzes it, cross-references it with existing knowledge,
Okay.
runs simulations, and then it spits out a credibility score.
So it's kind of like a fact checker,
Yeah.
but for like any idea.
Exactly, yeah. A super-powered fact-checker for ideas.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What happens then? What happens next?
So if an idea scores high enough, it just automatically gets the funding and resources
Wow.
that it needs to get developed. So
Yeah.
no more grant applications,
No more like pitching?
no more pitching. Yeah, none of that. It's just
Wow.
recognized and given what it needs.
So like if somebody in their garage had a, world-changing energy idea,
Right.
this could be their
Exactly. Exactly. And the source uses the example of an alternative gravity model,
Okay.
something that in our current system to get funding for would take, years of peer review and, all this stuff.
Right.
But if the math checks out, the physics checks out,
It just goes.
it could get fast-tracked.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's all very AI-centric.
Right.
But they also talk about the open source science in the source material.
Right.
How does that?
Yeah, so that's all connected to this because
Okay.
the source material argues that, with all the patents and paywalls we have today, it's actually slowing us down.
Right.
So the solution is a global open source knowledge base. Everything's freely accessible,
Okay.
and the creators are compensated based on the impact of their work.
So you're saying like if a scientist published a cure for a disease, they would get paid based on how many lives were saved,
Exactly.
not just on, how much a drug company makes from it.
It takes the profit motive out of it,
That's pretty amazing.
and focuses on the benefit to humanity.
Yeah, that is a radical shift.
For sure, it's huge, but
Mhm.
the potential is there, right? It could unlock a lot of progress.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm starting to see how all these pieces kind of fit together,
Mhm.
But it's a lot to wrap your head around. Like, what would it actually look like to live in this intelligence economy? How would it change the way we learn, work, even just think about ourselves?
That's where it gets really interesting. So let's start with education, I think. If we're valuing the output of intelligence, not just time spent, in a classroom, the whole concept of education could be completely different.
You mean like we wouldn't be stuck with standardized tests and this like one-size-fits-all kind of learning?
Yeah, exactly. Imagine like personalized learning paths tailored to individual interests, abilities.
Okay.
You'd be encouraged to explore your own unique talents and passions, rather than being forced to memorize a bunch of facts that
Yeah.
might not even be relevant to you.
It sounds like lifelong learning wouldn't just be something you do on the side. It would be like a core part of how you navigate the world.
Exactly. Yeah. In the intelligence economy, constantly expanding your knowledge and skill set wouldn't just be a nice thing to have. It would be essential for staying relevant
Okay.
and contributing to the collective pool of knowledge. The source even argues that this could lead to, a more dynamic and engaged workforce.
Yeah. Speaking of work, that's something I've been thinking about.
Mm.
How would jobs and careers even function in this new system? Like, would we all be freelancers or would there be something like traditional jobs still?
It's hard to say for sure, but the source suggests a shift away from that traditional 9-to-5 model,
Okay.
where you're tied to a desk and just paid for your time.
Right.
In the intelligence economy, the focus would be on solving problems.
So more like project-based work or even something like a global marketplace for skills.
The source actually uses the term cognitive task marketplaces, where individuals or teams can, contribute their expertise to solve specific challenges and get compensated based on the value they bring. It's almost like a giant interconnected brain with people from all over the world collaborating to tackle these complex problems.
And you mentioned earlier the role of AI in all of this.
Yeah.
Is it possible that instead of replacing jobs, AI could actually help us find more fulfilling and impactful work?
That's one of the more intriguing possibilities. Imagine AI systems that can analyze complex problems, break them down into manageable tasks,
Okay.
and then match those tasks with individuals who have the right skills and knowledge. It could create a much more efficient and targeted way of utilizing human talent.
Okay. That's starting to paint a pretty compelling picture. But it also raises a big question. Like, in a world where work is no longer just about earning a living, where your contribution to the collective good is so central, what happens to our sense of purpose? I mean, for so long, our identities have been tied to our professions.
It's a fascinating question. The source kind of hints at this idea that our sense of purpose in the intelligence economy might come from the impact we make, the problems we solve and the knowledge that we contribute to that collective pool.
So instead of saying, like, I'm a doctor, you'd say, I'm someone who solves problems related to health.
Right.
Instead of, I'm a lawyer, it's, I'm someone who ensures justice. It's a pretty radical shift in perspective.
It is. And think about the potential impact on social structures, right?
Yeah.
If intelligence and contribution become the primary measures of worth, how does that change our ideas about social status and hierarchy? It really makes you rethink some fundamental assumptions about how we organize ourselves.
It's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
But as exciting as all this sounds, I think it's important to acknowledge that a shift this big wouldn't be without its challenges.
Oh, for sure. There are a lot of questions that would need to be addressed, like how do we ensure fairness and equity in a system where intelligence is so heavily rewarded?
Yeah, we can't just assume that everyone will have the same opportunities to develop their intellectual potential,
Right.
regardless of their background or circumstances.
Exactly. And then there are questions about, how we prevent biases from creeping into these AI systems that are at the heart of this new economy. How do we make sure the idea checking machine and these cognitive task marketplaces are truly objective?
It seems like we need a whole new set of ethical frameworks and safeguards to navigate this new world. There's so much to think about.
Absolutely. There is, but the potential of the intelligence economy is simply too great to ignore. It's a chance to fundamentally rethink how we value intelligence and how we leverage it to solve the challenges facing humanity.
So how do we actually get from here to there? What are the practical steps involved in making this transition from our current system to this intelligence-driven world?
That's a great question, and that's exactly what we're going to explore in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we've talked about the possibilities, the potential problems. But how do we actually get there? Like from where we are now to this, intelligence-driven world?
Yeah, it's a big shift. But the source material we're looking at, it actually gives us a roadmap,
Okay.
like concrete steps we can take.
So where do we even begin?
Well, it all starts with that AI-powered idea checking machine,
Right.
That's the engine, right? Evaluating ideas on their merit, not who came up with them.
And I remember they talked about building it through crowdsourcing.
Yeah, open sourcing the project.
So we're using the collective intelligence of the planet to build the tool that will judge the intelligence of the planet. That's pretty meta.
It is, right. It goes back to that core principle. Harnessing the power of collective intelligence.
Right.
We want the system to be as unbiased and comprehensive as possible, so who better to build it?
Okay, I like that. So we got the idea checking machine. It's up and running, pumping out all these great ideas. Where do they all go?
Right. Well, that's where the Open Knowledge Platform comes in. That global open source database, all those verified ideas, stored, credited, available to anyone.
And they talked about using blockchain for this, right?
Right.
Why blockchain?
Well, for a few reasons. It's super secure, almost impossible to tamper with.
Okay.
And it's completely transparent.
Good.
So anyone can see, who contributed what and when.
Okay.
And it's decentralized, right? Not controlled by any one entity.
So it's kind of like a giant, unhackable public library
Exactly.
of human knowledge,
Yeah.
constantly growing.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing when you think about it.
It is, but even the best ideas need fuel.
Right, that's where the Global Intelligence Fund comes in.
Exactly. That's what provides the resources
Okay.
based solely on those evaluations from the machine.
And that has to be independent, right?
Completely independent,
Right.
no political or corporate influence.
Okay.
A pure meritocracy. The best ideas get funded, period.
So we're talking about a self-sustaining ecosystem of intelligence.
Right.
Ideas get generated, evaluated, shared, funded.
And it's all focused on moving humanity forward.
It's a bold vision.
It is. But remember, tools and systems, they're only part of it. We need a bigger change, like a change in mindset. We have to stop valuing credentials and titles so much
Right.
and start recognizing intelligence and contribution as what really matters.
So it's not enough to just build the infrastructure.
Right.
We have to change the culture, too.
It's a big challenge, but it starts with each of us, right?
Okay.
Embrace lifelong learning, stay curious, support the organizations building this new world.
We can actually help create this future
Exactly.
where human potential is unleashed, the best ideas win. It's pretty amazing.
It is. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question. If this system were in place today, what problem would you want to solve?
Don't let the limitations of today hold you back. Think big, dream big.
Absolutely.
A better future is possible.
It is.
One built on collective intelligence. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
Thanks for listening.
Until next time, keep those minds curious.
And never stop exploring.